This took turns. Oh yeah, I had some of those friends. At least it was just a sound this time. It was not a noise, just a sound. Welcome back to Stories in a Teacup. I'm your host, Christina, and I invite you to join me on a journey through another story that I have not read before, that I'm not familiar with. I've not seen it. I don't know what it's about. It's called a cold read, and we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a cup of tea. This time it's white champagne raspberry, no champagne included. It is a very light, slightly floral tea that is perfect for spring, but I like to mix it up in winter and drink like summer teas there too. Yes. So what is this about? In this series, we look at stories that we haven't seen. The way I do it is I give my writers, in this case, the wonderful Celine, a picture of story cubes. Story cubes are dice with pictograms or icons on them. And the idea is to try and weave in as many as you can into a story. So that it doesn't necessarily have to make sense, but it's about trying to overcome writer's block or finding inspiration. It takes off the pressure, it takes off the stress, and just makes for fun stories. This story is called Rory's Superhero Story. I think I mentioned in one of the last videos that I'm German. Now, you should know about us that the R's are placed slightly differently physically. Because of that, and combined with the fact that when we learn English at school, it's British English where the R is formed differently as well, or oftentimes even omitted. The R's are a very artificial matter for me. There are two names that I was really struggling with: Rory and Lilith, because L and TH. Let me hear my. So Rory is one of the characters in here. I hope that there is no Lilith in there. We'll see. But yeah, so the other word that is my absolute nemesis, for some reason, I don't know why, is digital. And when I do voiceovers, there's still a lot of content about digital transformation. And let's just say it takes about 50 tries to just get that one word to sound close enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be close enough. It's like, all right, like digital. So let's drink a sip of this beautiful white champagne raspberry and get started. Rory's Superhero Story. Rory observed the sun beginning to rise through the peaked window. He was there, sitting on the edge of a wooden stool in his basement. His basement always felt quite empty to Rory. There was always dust lying everywhere, every moment he picked something from his shelves. There were a few boxes of tools in the corner that he hadn't used in a while, and a floor made of concrete. Sorry, I think, is the floor made of concrete in the corner? The place felt soundproof to him. That was me trying to be funny and realizing it wasn't funny. The place felt soundproof to him. He heard no trees whistling outside. The only thing that he did hear was pouring rain on the few windows. I can feel it. Today is absolutely my day to do cold reads and do them well. You know, as audiobook narrators, it's not like you're just sitting down and reading it all in one go. Sometimes you literally try the same sentence again and again and again, and then you try to really pay attention to getting the word right or whatever you were doing wrong, and then you get it extra wrong. So just as Rory was going to stand up, a quick sound appeared to be near one of the windows. And yet, again, another sound and noise. There really is a theme. We should start keeping track of how many times there's a noise in a story. But in this case, it was at least a quick sound. He kept his hand close to his chest, as though doing so would cause his heart to beat slower rather than quickly. Oh, God. When he turned to look out the window, he spotted a crow with stunning feathers in the color obsidian. He walked to see the crow up closer, as well as standing in front of his shelf. Although Rory couldn't reach the window because it was above him, he could still gaze up to see why the crow was pecking at the glass. As he tried to reach for the window, the crow flew off into the distance. Why did I want to read clown? The clown flew off into the distance. It left him with nothing to look at but some trees and the setting sun. He thought to himself that there will be no more distractions. Poor Rory. He had to focus on his goal. He wanted to succeed in his mission. He moved to the opposite side of his chilly basement, and as he got closer to that side, a shimmering blue light crept up his chest. Rory positioned his palms on one of the large tubes that was glowing with blue light, and the tubes that were filled with a strange liquid. He previously bought a book that explained how to contain and keep a human being in good condition. As in himself, like using lotion and vitamins. Maybe exercise, hydration, you gotta stay hydrated, very important. Unfortunately, he couldn't find the specific part that he needed, so he did his own experiment. Small bubbles on the edge made the tube vibrate slightly. Rory had first filled them with water, but when he put the three bodies in, it turned glowing blue. Well, that escalated quickly. They weren't just any bodies. It's not anybody. They were superheroes that used to roam this earth. The same ones Rory dug up and placed in tubes. Okay, I think I may need to put a content warning in there. There was a tab for each person on the lower part of the tube. The blue illuminating, oh my god, this is getting creepy. The blue illuminating liquid was poured into each of the several experiment glasses he had on the shelf. During the experiment, the glasses were filled with the liquid and then properly sealed. He went over to the microscope right next to him and dropped a tiny bit of drops under the glass. To see what was in the water, he looked and zoomed in as close as he could. Is it actually called zooming as well when you do it physically on, like, a microscope, for example? Do you call it zoom there too? Probably, right? It's gotta come from somewhere. It couldn't be. He whispered, oh, that was so fake. It couldn't be, he whispered to himself, slowly backing away. And by fake, I mean my own expression. At that moment, he stared. He just stared at the microscope. What in the world is that? He asked himself. He previously filled the tubes with water to help keep them contained, but instead of doing so, he transformed the water into a luminous liquid. He was even more startled when he saw what was under that microscope. In fact, he had never seen anything like it. Cells were growing and eating one another as they multiplied. So, quick pause because this is still a little bit creepy. There's a really cool book that I read. Fun book. It's about sourdough. The bread baking sourdough, and there's a part where the protagonist gets a sourdough starter from from two people that belong to a fictional group of people, and the Musk. And as it turns out, to help the sourdough grow, she has to play it music, but only a particular kind of music that really entices it to grow. And then at one point, she wants to give it better flour to feed, because you have to feed your starter. So she got it flour from a particular brand and I think played it some other music. And then that particular sourdough would go on a warpath and just eat anything that got in its way. And it's kind of that, yeah. It got weird, but fun. I really enjoyed it, especially the audiobook version, because I absolutely adore the narrator. She is a big role model for me, And B, there are bits of sounds that are interspersed, or song interspersed throughout the book. The music of the mouse, which does not exist, by the way. And it's, if you like folky tunes, not like folk music, but folk songs, then you might enjoy those. He sat on his chair with wheels and rolled to one of his shelves with about 4 books in them. Well, I got more than that here. He chose the largest one. I guess that's one way of picking the next book to read. Just pick the largest one. One that had likewise consumed him throughout his time in high school. With the exception of the chapters that weren't as interesting as the others, he could tell the book by how many times he read it. He realized the information he needed wasn't there as he kept seeking it. He rolled back to the microscope after closing the book, which caused all the dust to fly away. Rory understood that in this specific circumstance, he needed to recall his time spent working in labs and his time studying cells at university. It brought up 2 memories, including the moment he heard from his professor that it is unsafe to have an unknown cell present. The other memory he had was of the college girl he had met and fallen in love with at the moment he set eyes on her. He hadn't seen her as often since. Yet, the words his professor once said never made much sense to him, since science is not science without experimenting. He just had to figure out what the strange liquid he had created could do. So, he decided on the one thing he never regretted. Oh, he drank it. I bet he drank it. Yes, he drank it. I'm sure he drank it. Oh. No, he didn't drink it. He grabbed one of his needles and filled it up all the way and tapped on the needle to make sure no air bubbles would be present. All right. He knew that could be dangerous if he didn't. Yeah, because that's the only thing to worry about. He took a long breath in to muster up the confidence he needed, knowing that it might help him either succeed in his mission or hurt him in some manner. Yeah, no, yeah. No kidding. He has been trying to figure out how to transfer the powers of his favorite superheroes to himself. Now, Rory had one disadvantage. He didn't know much about how transferring powers worked, or if it was even possible. He injected it into the cubital fossa. Probably butchered it. And as the last drop went into his arm, the needle was dropped. Needle drop moment. He didn't feel different, but he couldn't move his arm. So he did feel different. It felt frozen to the core. His veins all began to light up, and it seemed like everything was entirely frozen. He found it to be quite beautiful, almost as though thunder had become stuck in his body. However, that didn't matter as much as the intense pain that was traveling through his body, infiltrating him the more he struggled to control it. His heart was beating so quickly that it felt as though he just had ran a marathon. Slowly, he felt the liquid he had injected move through his arm and toward his torso. Okay, so imagine you just... However, this happens and you find yourself in a position where you, generally speaking, at first you feel the same, then you realize that you can't move your arm, and then it hurts like hell, but at the same time you glow from the inside. How would you feel? Would you be excited for the amazing powers that you might get, or would you be scared as heck for what that might mean to you? Purely hypothetically speaking, because obviously this is fiction and fantastical, so it's not real. But if you were in that very fictional situation, how would you feel? Let me know in the comments. I am very curious. In an effort to ease the discomfort, he got out of his chair and started to walk backwards. However, before he could take another step, he stumbled over something he couldn't see and fell with his face onto the cold concrete floor. Ouch. Hours had passed, and Rory's mind was the only thing that was able to function. He was trapped in himself. and he didn't feel anything else than being frozen. He felt like the blood stopped moving in his body. I mean, he injected something where he saw that the cells were eating other cells. So I'm guessing that the liquid cells were eating his blood cells or something? He couldn't figure out how long time had passed or how much time has passed. How long his hand had been on his other arm. He tried to close his eyes, and luckily he could. And just as he did, he fell unconscious. Hours later, and Rory wasn't on the cold ground anymore. Other than a rough mark of concrete pattern on the left side of his face, it was like none of it happened. He walked out of his house, confident that what had happened was all a bad dream, that maybe the strange liquid had just made him unconscious. Yet, somehow, he felt more powerful. He stepped into his car and drove to the beach, where he had met up with one of his old friends. Oh yeah, I had some of those friends. He found the trip to be unpleasant, and occasionally it caused his vision to go blurry, but other than that, he felt alright. Cool! Worth it! He unpacked his beach gear as soon as he got to the beach, which consisted mainly of an old book, a towel, and a water bottle. He walked on the beach, which was one of the things he did not like, considering he always found excess sand in his shoes. Yeah, that's why you take them off or wear sandals. But in the end, it wouldn't matter to him. He wasn't going there for himself. He was going there because he wanted to be with someone, a special someone. Oh, that's romantic. While not quite as lovely as the friend he was about to meet, the ocean view was nonetheless wonderful. He sat down on his towel and took it in. The sun was hanging high and made him wonder how long he was really unconscious. The friend might have forgotten that she was scheduled to see the same friend she met at university, so he looked around to check if she was late. He felt 2 hands on his shoulders as soon as he turned to face the water again, which almost caused him to fall to the ground. "I totally got you," a feminine voice said behind him. He looked to see the person who instantly made him forget about what had almost happened. "Funny," Rory said, a small grin appearing on his face. "You okay? You look paler than normal," the girl said. "You almost look a little blue." She giggled right after. Rory forgot that she spoke and looked a little too long. Yeah, creepy. She stretched out the word Rory, Rory, and waved across his face. After a few more blinks, Rory realized that she wasn't just moving her lips, rather, she was speaking to him. "Have you eaten today?" the girl said, looking a little concerned. "Here, have my apple. You're more important." Rory looked up at her. Did she just call him important? "Thank you, Luna. I appreciate you." Rory stuttered a bit before accepting the shiny red apple. The apple juice dripped down his lips as he took a bite. "Want to check out the turtles on the beach? I know you love them," Rory said with his "Want to check out the turtles on the beach? I know you love them," Rory said with his mouth full. He asked the question because it would give him time to look at her more, and so he really enjoyed being with her. "Sure," excitedly she replied as she sprung to her feet and went to the sea. Rory's apple, as well as his face, were both covered in sand. As he spit the sand out, he saw her run to the turtles and try to go after her, only to feel kind of dizzy. Maybe it was the apple, or the injection from earlier. Definitely the injection. Rory tried to shake the thought away. It must have been a dream. He couldn't be that crazy. He followed after his friend. "Aren't they so super cute?" she said to Rory as he tried to pet them, but she didn't get the chance as they went back into the water. "Yeah, they are," Rory said in his soft voice. "Just like you." He couldn't help his thoughts. "I'm going to get my water bottle. Want some too?" Luna asked. "Sure." Before he even could respond, she already walked back. He looked back one more time to see her. "Rory!" Luna yelled from the distance. Rory looked back to Luna holding up a water bottle in the air. "Help, Rory!" she yelled again, but when he looked, nothing seemed to be wrong. Rory looked back to the turtles, but they had all disappeared. Suddenly, clouds had gathered. Dark ones. "Rory, please!" He heard her yell again. This time, something felt off. Maybe it was going to rain. He turned himself around and realized what had happened. Luna's yelling had stopped, and the only thing to be heard was fire everywhere. Ashes were falling from the sky, the sand was darkened, and everything was on fire. He walked to their spot, and with every step he took closer to her, he realized that his mind had played tricks on him. They never went to see the turtles. There he saw Luna laying on their towels, only they weren't their bright colors anymore. They were red. Luna was laying on her stomach, reaching out with her hand to the person she thought could help her. He bent down to look at her face one more time. "I am sorry, Luna, but I can't let you be alive. You are my only weakness," he said with a gut feeling in his stomach. "I want to be a superhero more than I want to be with you." No emotion was present anymore. Just as he wanted to stand up, he heard Luna whisper what would be her last words. "Please, Rory." Only that wouldn't have been enough. As he remembered, he had this all planned out. The end. I almost said, wow, this took a turn, but this took turns. Started kind of creepy with all the experiments, and then for a while I thought, oh, maybe this actually took a turn for the better, but then it kind of got sad and dark again. And I think I need some happy stories now. At least it was just a sound this time. It was not a noise, just a sound. Interesting. So I guess the blue liquid turned him into a very evil wannabe superhero. So I guess someone like Batman or so would have to hunt him down later because it all went wrong. Human experiment, like someone experimenting on themselves, going horribly wrong. Obviously, this is a fictional story that it's not real. But at the same time, the premise of this kind of thing rings a little bit too true. So yeah, just his professor was right. Don't experiment too weirdly with things that you don't know what they are. It might come bite you in the back. One way or another. I mean, Rory might think that, oh, this is great. I've got all these powers now and I finally got to get a chance at being a superhero. But at the same time, it completely ruined his character. And the fact that, friends, although Luna seemed genuinely pleasant, so she seemed to be a genuine friend of sorts. But then again, yeah, if some people, if they've been bullied as kids, it messes them up long term and for a long time deep into adulthood. So I guess the moral of the story is A, don't experiment with things that you don't know what they are, and B, don't bully other kids. Be nice to each other. It's always nice to be uplifted by kind words. That's it for today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you for another episode of Stories in a Teacup. If you like this episode, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with your friends. Until next time.